The golden age of piracy, from the 1650s to the 1730s, is an era which has captivated the imagination of countless people worldwide, from blockbuster movies like Pirates of the Caribbean to Halloween costumes where people get to live out their misguided childhood fantasies of pursuing a career as a swashbuckler. There is seemingly no end to the influence of this particular period in history. I'm Wayne from Rodney Illustrations, creator of the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot, published by US Games Systems, and today I'm thrilled to be continuing this legacy by doing this episode on the secret pirate influence of the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot deck. Now, how this actually came about is I actually wrote a comment on the video that my colleague Phyllis Santucha made on the Global Fusion deck, where she was curious about what seemed to be all of these pirate references in the deck. So, after having congratulated her for having a keen eye in noticing, she suggested that I do a video on the subject. So here we are. So, if this is up your alley, then thank Phyllis. I'll leave a link to her video in the description as well. But before we set sail, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and share this content with your brethren and sistren. Now, grab your favorite brew, fetch your trusted cutlass, and let's set sail. By far and large, it would seem as if the Knights Templar, the military order from the era of the Crusades, are inextricably tied to the history of the Tarot. Whether in fact, in legend, or in spirit, somehow their name and legacy keeps popping up from time to time. Even the cross-pattern method of reading the cards in divination is alleged to perhaps have Templar influence. One of the prevalent theories circulating about the Templars is that during their travels to the Holy Lands, they acquired either the knowledge of the Tarot or became the cards' custodians, and as the soldiers and knights returned to Europe, they brought the cards with them. Were the cards encoded with symbolic messages containing Templar secrets? Was it a secret map to the Holy Grail or Templar treasure? Was it just a novelty card game that they all fancied? Was it all or none of the aforementioned? No one knows for certain. What we do know is that the Templar Knights were seekers of knowledge, and therefore it is plausible that there is some truth in these theories. Aside from the stated purpose of escorting pilgrims to safety to the Holy Lands and waging war on behalf of the Catholic Church, the Templars were also known to have revolutionized banking. They were excellent traders, and they were also good at sailing. In fact, they even owned their own war-fighting galleys. In 1307, when the Templar order was ultimately betrayed by the Church in collusion with King Philip, it is alleged that some of the surviving members fled to other territories like Portugal and Scotland, etc., where they were better protected from the reach of the Church, basically joining other groups and aligning with other military orders that welcomed experienced fighters. Others joined trade guilds, staying under the radar, whereas others became mercenaries for hire. However, it is also said that the Templars were in possession of several ships which were docked in the French port of La Rochelle that simply vanished, lending credence to the idea that some of these former Templars took to the high seas and turned to piracy, vowing revenge against their betrayers. Now, piracy by strict definition has been occurring since antiquity, so take that into consideration when contemplating the large jump in centuries between 1309 to the height of Golden Age piracy in the Caribbean in the 1600s. If indeed a branch of Templars formed a new maritime brotherhood, even if it retained some of its customs, it would more than likely have evolved into something quite different over time. According to the author Stephen Sora in his book Secret Societies of America's Elite, the breakup of the Templars was directly responsible for the dramatic rise in piracy that plagued Europe, America, and even the Indian Ocean. The pirates themselves were organized in fraternal brotherhood. They pledged themselves to the good of the group, they promised to share equally in the proceeds, and they even fought under the same battle flag that was flown by the Templar fighting fleet, i.e. the skull and crossbones. Stranger still, the pirate bases, ports in Scotland, Ireland, and America, where pirates could openly dock and sell their booty, were protected by Masonic cells that extended to courthouses and capitol buildings. That being said, there is still a lot to be discovered about what exactly transpired in those times. Therefore, it's important not to categorize all pirates as the same thing, having the same rules and customs. This is not the case. There is further evidence to indicate that some pirate crews were diverse and practiced democracy within their group, with each person having a vote and pledging that the spoils would be shared fairly. This is remarkable considering that society at the time was very hierarchical and extremely segregated in terms of race and classism. The democratic methods of pirates would not become the standard practice in the modern world until the birth of the United States. According to the findings of some scholars, not all pirates were European, and about 30% of pirates were black or people of mixed race who escaped slavery and were granted freedom aboard pirate ships. One very famous example of this was a pirate by the name of Black Caesar, who served on the Queen Anne's Revenge with Edward Blackbeard Teach. There was also instances of female pirates like Mary Read and Anne Bonny. If you've played Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, then this is probably not news to you, is it? Anyway, when it comes to Jamaica, I think the Brethren of the Coast might have played a role in shaping Jamaican culture to the point where we may still be seeing remnants of it today. Incidentally, one of Jamaica's deputy governors was the infamous pirate/privateer Sir Henry Morgan, who was also a member of the Brethren. According to a related article on Wikipedia, the Brethren of the Coast were based primarily on the island of Tortuga off the coast of Haiti and in the city of Port Royal on the island of Jamaica. The original Brethren were mostly French, Huguenot, and British Protestants, but their ranks were joined by other adventurers of various nationalities, including Spaniards and even African sailors, as well as escaped slaves and outlaws of various sovereigns. Piracy gets romanticized in modern culture, just like the villains of the Wild West, like Billy the Kid or the gangsters in the bootleg era. However, the reality of the situation is that these groups inflicted unspeakable horrors upon their victims, as well as being victims themselves of unspeakable horrors under the ruthless reign of the Church and Empire. But what probably resonates with a lot of people, and what resonates with me, is that piracy was essentially a culture of rebellion from an oppressive and tyrannical regime. So while the reality of being a pirate might be deplorable for some, the idea that it represented, i.e., being free and living life on your own terms, is powerful, and it is easy to see how a good deal of people can connect with it to this day. Whether or not any of this is true, who's to say? But here are some of the reasons why I've included elements of the pirate tradition within my tarot deck. Reason 1. I believe that in some ways piracy was connected to the Knights Templar, who, if only in spirit, were influential in how we all come to understand the tarot in the modern world. Even if you just want to say there were certain movements like Rosicrucianism and Masonry that were influenced by the Knights Templar, if not inheritors of their legacy, the people who were responsible for syncretizing and constructing the correspondences in the tarot that many of us work with today were part of that Templar tradition. Reason number 2. I grew up in the Kingston and St. Andrew area of Jamaica, and Port Royal is not even an hour away. You have to drive through the Palisadoes whenever you go to the airport in Kingston, and as children we used to go and explore the ruins of Port Royal, go to the Giddy House, look at the cannons, eat at the local restaurants, take a ferry to the Keys, and all of that stuff. On a subtle level, you can still feel the current of what transpired several centuries ago in the era of piracy humming through those streets and on those shores. I feel like it's a part of who we are. Maybe it's just a part of who I am. I don't know. If you're curious and want to examine them, the cards that have obvious references to piracy are as follows. From the minor arcana, the 2 of Blades, the 2 of Gems, and also the 4 of Vessels. Then all of the knaves from the 4 suits. And finally, in the major arcana, we have Fortuna with her wheel taking on the likeness of what would be the wheel of a ship. Thank you for your time. I'm Wayne from Rodney Illustrations, creator of the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot. Please help me to secure some doubloons in the future by liking and subscribing and sharing this content with your friends. Peace and blessings.